Good evening. We have a quorum. We'll call a planning board meeting to order. First up for general information is Barry Roberts. You're not Barry.
Good evening. I'm here with Barry tonight to request an amendment to a condition in the permit for the East Street condominiums. Paragraph 7D has a condition that in each phase applicant will not be eligible for a certificate of occupancy until the affordable dwelling unit in each phase has been identified and documented on the record with satisfaction of the planning board and qualified for the Massachusetts inventory of affordable housing. And as I think you all know, we've had some difficulty with finding somebody to administer the program. The bylaw requires that the Hadley Housing Authority administer that program, but they've indicated that they don't have the resources, the wherewithal, or the expertise to administer the program. So we've been seeking other ways to do it, and frankly, the private administrators that we've spoken to, agencies, are very expensive. It would cost us in the range of $65,000 to employ them to do that. So we've been looking at different ways to deal with the affordable issue. Not that we want out of it, we're just trying to figure out how to deal with it. And we've come to the point where Barry needs some certificates of occupancy. So we're requesting that that portion or that condition of the permit be amended. There are a couple of ways to do it. First of all, he has decided that he's not building in phases. You may have noticed he's building the whole project out now. So he's putting in all our infrastructure, all the roads, all the drainage, the water, sewer. So it's not being done in phases. So we looked at the bylaw and thought that maybe we could play off of the inclusionary bylaw, which does provide for a couple of things. One is that the inclusionary bylaw provides for a payment in lieu of the affordability of the affordable unit. And it's basically a payment to the satisfaction of the planning board based upon an average cost of construction together with an average cost of land and infrastructure for the area. So we put together the numbers that, you know, in all honesty, can't be totally accurate because there's, ebb and flow in the infrastructure costs still. But basically what we came up with was that once you figure that number, the cost of the per square foot construction and the acquisition and infrastructure, we come up with a number. And basically what we're looking at is the affordable units were going to be 1,042 square feet. We're guessing it's $115 a square foot to build the unit and about $110,000 per unit for land and infrastructure costs. So when you multiply that all out, it comes to about $229,830. We then subtract out the amount of money that we're allowed to sell those units for, which is $157,000 now, and we come up with a number of $72,800. And that's basically what he would be contributing to the affordable housing in Hadley. So one of our proposals would be that we multiply that number by 5, and we come up with about $360,000. That be paid either to a housing trust fund or to the town of Hadley or to the Hadley Housing Authority as a contribution towards future affordable housing. We think it's a great way for the town to deal with it. They then control it, and they have the ability to build or buy or subsidize rents or do whatever it is that the town feels is in the best interest of Hadley. So our proposal would be that the board allow us to make a $72,830 payment times 5 for each affordable unit to satisfy that requirement. We are to the point where we need some occupancy permits, so we would like you to consider that. Also in the inclusionary bylaw, it provides a schedule, whereas what we had done was taken 15% of phase 1, 15% of phase 2, 15% of phase 3. we can't do that any longer because we're not doing it in phases. So what the inclusionary, your inclusionary bylaw calls for is for at 30% plus 1 unit, then you give a third of the units. And there's a schedule in there how it goes up. So our 30% is 11 units. So one of our requests is that you amend that condition to allow us to satisfy it either with the payment in lieu or with a unit, and that we do those units in accordance with your schedule in the inclusionary bylaw, which is basically the less than 30%, it doesn't trigger anything at 30% plus 1 unit, which for us would be 11 units, then 10% of the affordables, up to 50%, 30%, and your chart goes on up. So what we're looking for is a release of a release of 11 units for certificates of occupancy, and that we would pay or build in accordance with the schedule in the inclusionary bylaw. It's been fairly tough. We've fallen off the edge.
It's all right. I'm always on the edge.
It's been tough trying to figure out how to get this done. Frankly, Barry spends a lot of time on the construction part, but he has met with members of the select board, he's met with the town manager, he's met with interested parties, just trying to figure out a way to get this done in a reasonable fashion. And it's just expensive if they're going to be on the inventory. So that's what we'd like. We'd like to amend that portion, that paragraph 7D of the supplementary conditions to allow us to obtain some certificates of occupancy now and to either pay or build in accordance with the schedule of the inclusionary bylaw. Now, we know, or we think, that within the next 6 months or a year, the town may propose a affordable housing trust fund in town meeting. May pass, may not, we don't know. We would guess that their requirements would be similar to the inclusionary bylaw requirements, but we really don't know. But we need a resolution so that we can sell some units.
Interesting, we've talked about this, Mr. Roberts come in a couple of times, so we're not new to this, obviously.
Correct.
And we talked to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, our representative, Larry Smith, and he echoed what you said, and he echoed Mr. Roberts' concern that other communities have done this, and he actually went to I don't want to call it a meeting, but they had a group where they had the affordable group, and they had not the affordable group, they had the Chapter 40B, if you would, group out of the state, and then they had the group that was in charge of I'm not sure exactly which ones it was, Bill.
It was the people on the zoning side and the people on the housing side.
Right, and anyways, and the zoning side were so much for the inclusionary, and the state side was, no, we don't want the state to have anything to do with doing that. And so now they suddenly got real life experience. Well, one hand, we want it, but on the other hand, we're not gonna support it with our own people. And how do you get the void filled? And they said it's also very expensive. They didn't have a cure, and I doubt they're gonna have anything soon. And I think the trust fund, very much like the TDR fund that we use, is probably the best way to address this, by simply getting a fund together, having the town utilize it in an appropriate manner. And we tried putting that in when the inclusionary bylaw was passed, but for some reason it was a concern when we would give the housing authority an open checkbook. Well, we've had a TDR fund for years, and the conservation does not have an open checkbook. They need 2/3 majority to pull out of it. I don't see why we couldn't do the same thing with an inclusionary fund.
Yeah.
So Peter, you're presenting us with two alternatives: a sum of money to go into the trust fund, or building the units
Yes.
later on.
Yes.
Okay.
To be honest with you, our dilemma is twofold. One is, We haven't solved the affordability issue yet.
Well,
We know
that's-
what it is, but we're working on it, and we can't solve it immediately. Yet we have some units that are ready for sale, and we can't get certificates of occupancy until we satisfy it. So, I mean, to be honest with you, we can do one of three things. You could, that would be good for us. You could say tonight, yep, we'll go by that schedule in the inclusionary bylaw, so you can get some certificates of occupancy now. That's our desirable but least desirable. What we'd really like to do is to be able to take section 25.7.1 of the inclusionary bylaw and say that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna either pay that number, which by my math is 72,830 per unit. That's what he's losing per unit. And that check comes at 360 or to the town. The bylaw, this bylaw allows for it, and that's what we'd like to do. If the board were to say, well, gee whiz, I don't know, we're happy to keep discussing how we do that, but to me, that seems like an easy answer. It's a big amount of money, better than giving somebody $65,000 to advertise from Brattleboro to Hartford for people to come and occupy these, because I think the affordable ones will be occupied quite easily. Because we do have to sell them for $157,000.
Well, my concern is that you're mixing two
I-
separate bylaws, and they were adopted more than 10 years apart, and they have different histories. What I am willing to do is, I would be prepared to make a motion to authorize release of up to 11 certificates of occupancy before addressing affordability. And I would like to invite you back to our next meeting, which will be August 5th, where we will be, we already are scheduled to meet with.
It's not the first.
No,
Oh,
that's September.
September, okay,
You've got them reversed
August
in there,
5th.
so,
okay.
August 5th.
I don't have an August page in here.
yes, you do, it's the next page. July, September, it's
People-
August.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Oh, the guy that put this together, put it together backwards. How about
okay,
that?
so.
We usually do them in a particular order.
Yeah.
It's kind of free form sometimes.
How about that?
So, Larry, August 1st. So Larry Smith is going to be here from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, who will be working with us on trying to merge or reconcile these two sections anyway. It is in the master plan update as something that we wanted to work on. And I just don't want to try to think through all of the consequences of agreeing to accept the cash deposit without being 100% sure that we have authority to accept it.
That's one thing, because I think when we put the senior bylaw in, we don't, that's not in there.
Yeah, I think my argument
Yeah.
would be it's in the bylaw.
Yeah, I know, and I agree with Bill on this one, that you're in a hurry, we can give you what you want right now very easily, and we can work on the actual long-term method, like Bill said.
I assume we believe that somebody's gonna put the trust fund before town meeting either this fall or in the spring?
That's our goal,
And will
yes.
it be the planning board who does that, or will it be
Yes.
the select?
I'll be us,
Yep.
Okay.
because it'll be a zoning bylaw.
And what's the deadline for that, do we know?
The fall town meeting is end of October, usually. So usually we have until early September to get it, so we have about 2 months to get that going.
The select board has been very comfortable letting us reserve an article or two even after the warrant officially closes.
Just to we reserve a spot and get them the wording near the end of the actual posting.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we're not behind the 8 ball according to the affordability, the numbers of affordable housing in Hadley. We actually have the highest percentage we got 11.5%,
No, you've got almost 13%.
now 13.
I think so.
okay,
But yeah, you
But
were,
nevertheless, so we're not behind the 8 ball, we don't have to make that decision. And
about
and
15.
I would be in favor of giving you some time to build them where you're there rather
Well,
than
well, give
take the
them,
money from a trust
they
fund.
need 11 right now. Give them the 11 they need. We can vote that tonight.
I'm okay with that.
You'll be back in a couple of weeks with any luck, and if you need more between now and the actual voting on the warrant, come back and see us and we can work on that. Hopefully we'll have a solution by that time.
I hope I have that problem.
What's this total build out on that? How many units?
30, what is it, 60? How many units are you building total, Barry?
35.
35.
35
Okay.
units.
So,
I'm really not for setting trust. I'd rather see them build affordable housing and it's
I
there.
agree, yeah.
Because once it gets in there and it gets other hands, God knows what's gonna happen to it.
Well, what would be terrific is if somehow, you know, with all due respect, the housing authority could, you know, do whatever it is needs to be done. And I agree, it's complicated and it's a lot of work, but it would be a good thing for both us and for any future affordable housing, and a good thing for Hadley to be able to do that. But if it's gonna be on the subsidized inventory, this process has to happen.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so is it gonna be an
Bill's got
agenda?
a motion.
So I'll make a motion that make a finding that the proposed changes are not significant or major and can be addressed without reopening the public hearing. And we are going to amend condition 7D of the decision as approved February 2nd, 2016, to allow up to 11 certificates of occupancy to be issued without constructing affordable units. And we note that the phasing has been shelved and all units are being built.
And will that be an agenda item or an early item, or?
Yeah. We'll put it as an agenda item as under the
Thank you.
Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Thank you.
What kind of time frame do you need to build affordable housing? Say, you get these 11, the next block you're gonna build is how many units?
Oh, I'm not sure yet. I'm building them as I sell. Okay, I don't
What do
have
you
a-
need for time to build an affordable?
We would just build it as we were going along.
The real issue is how long is it gonna, if going through the subsidized inventory, going through that state process, how long will that take? And I don't know,
Well, I don't either,
Yeah,
that makes two of
but
us.
I can try to find out.
Yeah.
I'll second the
Okay, we
motion.
have motion, we have second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks for your time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Avo, Sep?
Yep. I am with Ed Beck Solar, and we have a solar array, private solar array for a customer on 83 Rocky Hill Road. That is within 50 foot of a abutting property. So I have packets here with all the information, and I got a permission from the abutting property owner, and I just wanted to bring this to you to have it put to a vote, so it could be allowed or not.
This is a ground mounted system?
Yes, I apologize. Yeah, the ground mount solar system. So I can just,
About how big?
it's a 9 kilowatt, so it's
Okay.
about 66 by 40 feet.
Okay.
And there's all tons of information in the packets if you'd like to open them up and have a look.
Give me those.
That's
Yeah, we'll send them out for, this is administrative, it's been a ground-mounted solar system, is considered a small solar system,
yep.
and only requires administrative review by us and other boards in town, but it does require that we give them a 60-day bill?
It's 35. or
35
something,
days,
just-
so
Yep.
35, we could put you on the August, that's not gonna be 35, it'll have to be the 1st of September meeting, September 5th for administrative review,
Sure.
okay?
No problem.
And that's 83 Rocky
83
Hill.
Rocky Hill Road, yes.
Actually, yeah, you probably should keep these and bring them back if they,
Would you like?
Well, no, we
You can look at those, I will distribute these
okay.
to the other boards
okay.
in town, but you can use
Yeah.
these for yourself.
Yeah, I gave you 9 copies as
David
was
Moston?
explained to me by the town clerk. Yeah. So,
Okay?
anything else?
So,
I'll be back here on the
on
5th.
September 5th.
Okay, sure thing.
Very
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thank you. David Phil.
Certainly can discuss.
Okay. I probably should have said myself.
Not participating, a butter.
Ooh. One.
Well, first of all, what are you asking us for?
I'm asking to amend the definitive subdivision plan for the driveway location. On the plan that you have in front of you, the Orchid Lane that's shown, the 20-foot wide private lane, is what's approved in the definitive subdivision plan. What I'd like to do is install the shown 12-foot wide hard pack single driveway leading out to the house, which includes a 40-foot long, 12-foot wide turnaround at the end to allow for emergency vehicle turnaround access and that sort of thing. So basically what we're doing is shifting the driveway over with a slightly narrower driveway than what was approved on the original plan. That front non-buildable area is supposed to be for preservation of agricultural purposes, which you'll actually have a net gain in usable land there for the agricultural purposes with our single driveway rather than the private lane that was originally approved. In the packet, there's the certified mail receipts from the 4 abutters there, and as well as the 2 owners on either side of the driveway that said they have no objections pending planning board approval to the driveway shift location, as well as the letter that we sent to them explaining what we're looking to do.
Okay. We can amend anything in the subdivision except relocating the road. That requires reopening the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
So, the good news is we just need 3 votes.
He's not relocating the driveway. This will stay as everything says. All he's talking about is just putting the driveway here, but this will still stay there.
Yeah.
That will still be the,
Okay.
that will still be the driveway of record. All he wants to do is instead of putting the actual drive in, it'll be moved over.
Centered on the street frontage.
This will still be the legal,
Okay.
legal access.
Right now, that's on the boundary line,
Correct.
then you wanna shift it over how much?
Centered on the 72-foot street frontage rather than all the way over to one side.
Probably 30 feet,
Yeah.
roughly 30 feet.
So what's wrong with that?
No, nothing's wrong with that. Bill's just saying if we completely relocate the street over to here, we gotta reopen the hearing. But all he wants to do is leave the legal definition here, but just put the actual driveway here.
Correct. And just for your records, the owner of record on the plot plan for the parcel to the right is incorrect. The ones that signed off on it are the new owners. That piece that was owned by the Zaskis was sold since the plot plan was done. But yes, that's been sold.
I'm not sure we actually did have didn't have an actual conservation easement for the non-buildable area. So
That just delineate a lot as non-buildable, so the same thing on that, but can be used for agricultural purposes.
So the house is gonna be here.
Right about it,
Yeah.
here's
Which is where it is always gonna be.
yeah, the house, this house location is not gonna change by more than, well, there's a square where it could be.
Yeah, the square is kind of hard to see with the colors that
But
the
he's
surveyor
gonna put-
used.
He's gonna put the house about within that square.
Right.
That turnaround's gonna be in that same location, and then it's gonna shoot out to the house?
Yeah, no, this driveway is gonna come up straight with the parking lot up there. This turnaround strictly is on paper only to satisfy zoning, the subdivision bylaw.
And the fire chief has no problem with that?
Correct. Yeah, because he approved the original one. He approved the original driveway coming up with a hammerhead turnaround.
Well, now it's not gonna be there.
Well, it's gonna be moved over with a larger turnaround up here.
Yeah, that
In that parking lot?
Yeah, yeah.
that pad in front of the driveway area, or the garage area, I should say, is 40 by 50.
Well, there's no,
The-
not even any
the-
measurements.
The original turnaround came up here with a pull-in and a back out for the fire truck.
Yeah,
And this new one, he's gonna have a much larger area for a fire
drive it in back in there and get out.
and
Yep.
a much larger area for a fire truck to turn around in.
He agrees to that radius, the fire chief? Did you talk to him about it?
About the radius of the one that we
radius,
put on.
take the truck and back around that.
Have you seen the fire chief about that size to turn around and back in?
No, the 40 by 50, what we put on there was based on the length of the truck and a turn radius, but we did not get approval from the fire chief on that, so.
So do we normally get approval from the fire chief for driveways?
Only for the turnaround, but this area for this turnaround, that's 40 by 50?
Correct, and then the little tail that sticks out there is 40 feet by 12.
That's bigger than this.
We
This
usually
is
do
40
get-
by, this is 40 by 12.
Well, no, the base,
Well,
will it be able to handle it?
the turnaround that he's got listed on here is 40 by 12 with roughly 12, I'm gonna guess this is much bigger than what's on here. That's the turnaround that he had on here, 40 foot by 12 back end with what is that, 12 foot by 20, and this is 40 by 50 with a much bigger turnaround. I mean, you can ask the fire chief if you want, but I'm sure he's gonna say that that's much bigger than what he needs.
Okay, so you'll build the new driveway to the same standards that were set for the old driveway?
Yes, sir.
This is gonna be-
The old plot plan had a proposed hard pack Orchid Lane there as the private way. And it'll be a hard pack as well, 12 foot wide. So same dimensions as the original approval.
How many feet is that house off the road?
It's approximately, roughly 530 feet back.
Did we originally approve this? That's the date we signed it.
And this is gonna be exactly the way you're gonna do this?
Yes, sir.
I certainly would like just to pass that by the fire chief, make sure it's satisfactory with him.
Okay.
So that he's not gonna do anything later.
November 16th.
I would vote yes
here it
for
is.
contingent upon him saying, okay, if it's okay. Yes, no problem.
So are these two plans the same?
They are. One's just in grayscale because the colors were
Okay.
pretty bad.
Okay. And what's the revision date on this one?
This is the proposed revision on that one. If you flip a couple pages back, what was sent to the abutter, let's see, that was,
Well, no, what I want to do is I want to make this an attachment
Sure.
to the decision, so I just wanted to key into,
June 28th, 2017.
Okay.
That's what's in green on the book.
okay. So, I'll make a motion to amend the, very small subdivision, which is, probably should have, Joe and Jim not participate, because we only need 3 votes. So I'll make a motion to amend the very small subdivision based on determination that the proposed changes are not major, and the change will be to relocate physical driveway as shown on plan dated 6/28/17, contingent upon approval of the fire chief for new driveway design.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Not participating.
And do I need to run that to the fire chief, or is that sent
No,
over from you?
We get to the, thank you, when you get a chance.
Okay.
Just have him give us a note to set this up.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you.
Mary Thayer.
I have plans for our lot in Abbey where our house is. There's also a letter from Randy Isaac. Our house lot is 6.8 acres. My son would like to, his wife would like to build a house next to us on the other side of our barn. So he worked with Randy Isaac on how we could divide up the 6.82 acres to make it a building.
So this is where,
We live right
this is
here.
your house right now.
Yeah.
And this is the hill right in front of you, right there, really steep hill right there, brick nails. Okay.
So we come over like this to get the 175-foot frontage. We actually almost want to go up to the property line and then do the heavy box over here and we'd like to build up kind of up here.
This whole lot is still.
Okay.
So I would have the 100 feet width to the principal structure.
Well, 175 is all the way back, more than 175.
This is 150 here.
Yeah.
That little 175.
Oh.
So nothing is right here.
I think the actual width requirements are 100 feet, unless we change.
150.
For the box? Yeah. Well, 150 for the box, but it was a
What's,
separate.
what's this on the east side of it or west side of it?
That's on the west side of the Occupancy Road.
The riverside?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's that aerial,
Yeah.
anyhow. Barstow's is over here,
Mm-hmm.
and our house is here, the colonial farmhouse.
Yeah,
is
Sam
right
Russell's.
behind. He's back here. Yeah, he's.
Oh, this is the road that goes way out the
Yeah,
fields?
no, this goes out to Sam's house.
Oh,
Yeah, this is the small house. Here, and then, the house like right in here.
that's out of the floodplain?
It is, yeah, it's.
Looking at the box, good? No, looking at something else.
East side. Good. This your son, you said?
Pardon?
Your son?
Yes. We own the house on the south side and the ex brother owns the house on the north side.
Is this Steerville?
Across from Barstow's. and-
Yeah, Barstowville, Steerville?
Yeah.
Perfect. Give him some competition.
Well, the land's been in the family since 1747, so.
Been around for a while, you know.
point between the front lot line and the rear of the principal structure. Said rear being private point defective. Look, shall the lot have a minimum width less than the minimum lot width required. Except that the planning board may, but is not required to issue a special permit as provided in 6.2.2 to permit a lot width to go less than 75% of the minimum.
But the actual definition of width there is not the same as frontage. Oh, where's the old charts? I don't remember if we fixed it.
Between the front lot line and the rear of the principal structure. Width less than the minimum lot width.
This is the bylaw that had to do with the very, very narrow on Hopkins Road.
I believe we had to do the 175 because we're agriculture.
Pardon?
What's the issue? They got 175 for fires.
Oh,
What's the zoning issue?
okay. Go to page 19, next page. Frontage is 175, but the width is 150.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're all set, that's all.
Yeah, Mike, the reason for the width 150, used to be, you could have 175-foot frontage, then it would narrow down, and you could not put a house on it without a special permit, so it was just a mechanism by which you could designate where the house would be if it were an unusually shaped lot. But this has more than enough acreage.
So what we're gonna do here is Jim's gonna sign it, I'm gonna sign it, Joe's gonna sign it, and we're gonna ask you to carry it down too.
That's just fine. Thank you.
You're taking that one at a time
Yeah.
and expedite it.
Why don't you just start signing them that way and send them this way? This is a big project, signing a big project.
So how are you related to Tim for my class?
Tim? Tom. That's my husband's brother.
That's a fact.
This one's not mine. Oh, they need
Yeah,
that to
this
sign
is
this?
for the Mylar.
Okay.
If anybody's here for the Eversource public hearing continuation, they have withdrawn. So we don't do anything but accept the withdrawal.
Well,
I'm sure that broke your heart, Michael.
I think we should,
Celebrate?
well, have a drink.
After the
What do you
meeting.
think, this is a Wild West?
Well, I just want to point something out to you, that if we ask enough questions, that we can probably accomplish things through the back door.
What's that supposed to be?
You don't need to do it that way. I'll make a motion to allow withdrawal of Eversource application.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I just want to point out that the planning board with this vote has preserved the vista on South Maple Street, looking at Mount Holyoke Range for posterity.
I beg to differ.
No?
No. We have dodged this bullet.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
it's coming, no?
Great.
Can't we just get
There's
along?
the drawings, and
Do you want,
just take them, just file it with that front form with this town clerk any time in the next few days. You can
Okay.
get that filed with you.
very
Okay.
good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christine Pratt.
Hi. I am here because I would like to propose a change in use to 231 Russell Street in Hadley, which used... Sure. I'd like to propose a change in use to 231 Russell Street that used to be the Kung Fu studio and the dance studio, and I would like to open a dog daycare.
Okay, what will you do with the waste? A dog daycare was opposed once there before, and it was met with a lot of opposition from abutters and the Board of Health.
Okay, so I have done quite a bit of research. And the solid waste obviously will be picked up immediately. We have a couple of options for, I did research on dog urine and its effects on groundwater with water aquifers and wetlands. And this I printed in its entirety. It is the only thing I could find on that issue, and it shows that it does not cause any more harm than fertilizing your lawn. However, we are willing to make other arrangements if necessary.
Well, first of all, the other dog daycare right up the road is indoor only. Are you going to be indoor only?
I would like to not be indoor only. I believe for the well-being of the dogs, I would like to also have a fenced-in area in the back.
Okay, so
I-
we have to schedule a public hearing on this,
Okay,
because obviously there could be some concern, because you're in a residential area. Behind you, there's a lot of residences.
okay.
Where's this actually
This
located?
is right next to right next to Randy's building on the 9.
There is a
Right next to Harold Eaton Associates, right next to
Yeah,
the
there is a
barbecue place.
picture of the actual lot. It's across from the Hadley Health Center.
Right,
Oh, that little house?
yeah. Well, not the little house, the
Oh,
one
that
where used to be the
karate one?
Yes.
Where the karate was, right.
Should we ask her to check with the Board of Health first, or before you start? Or is that gonna be part of,
That'll be
Part of the conditions.
process.
Yeah, you should actually go to your doctor
It's
later.
not.
Okay,
She doesn't have enough copies now to file anyway.
how many
So-
copies would I need?
We need 7 copies, and then we need 2 copies of the butters on mailing labels.
Okay. I have more copies with me.
Okay, you have your butters on mailing labels?
That I do not have.
Okay.
How many
We will be
dogs-
here in,
Excuse me,
How
sir?
many dogs are you talking about?
I would board a maximum of 10 and daycare probably a maximum of 30. And we would also do grooming and training.
okay, so our next meeting is August 1,
Okay?
and you can come back with the 7 copies. I think this is adequately
Yeah,
detailed.
yeah, this is.
I can leave the other copies here if you'd like them now.
It wouldn't make any
Wouldn't matter.
difference.
No, it
Okay.
wouldn't make a difference, because we really did bring you, so, bring 2 copies of this, 7 copies of this, and then 2 copies of the butters on mailing labels, and we'll give you a form to fill out, which is basically name, address, and phone number and stuff. That's all I have. application form, but that's very, very basic.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
Site plan approval conditions used in the application.
Correct. Nicole Berkey?
Some people over. I'm here on behalf of Bertram Construction to obtain release of 4 lots in North Hadley. One of them is Lot 1 Indian Pit Drive and the Shattuck Estates Plan, and the other 3 are on Nikki's Way on the Sapphire Estates Plan. On the Shattuck Estates Plan, all the homes have been sold except for Lot 4. And only 1 lot has been sold on the Sapphire Estates Plan.
So you're requesting the release of,
Lot 1, Indian Pipe Drive, and lots 10, 12, and 13, Nikki's Way.
how many will be still held?
About 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
How many lots left on that particular subdivision?
On
Not on all your projects, just on that particular?
On Shattuck Estates, there'll be 1 lot left, but then on the Sapphire Estates, lots 7, 9, and 14 have already been released, and there's a total of 16 lots, and so there'd be a total of, if you release these 3 lots I'm seeking release of, there'd be 6 lots total released. So there'd be 10 lots remaining.
That's good, that's all right.
Are these streets accepted by the town yet?
They're not.
They're not on ones.
Are they going to be?
Yes, once all the homes are built, he paves the road again so that it's fresh after all the construction trucks have been on it, and then he tries to have the town accept it.
Why do you wait till all the houses are built on?
So that the road's clean and not damaged or anything.
We get the equipment in there to build
Yeah.
houses, sometimes they unload them on a road and the bulldozers and their equipment will damage, they put grooves in the street. So we request that they not put a finished coat until
It's all done.
most, if not all, the houses are built, if they don't start marking up the road.
This is also a slightly different situation because Bertram Construction is not a developer that sells lots. They sell completed structures or completed houses. So they're controlling all aspects of the work up to the end. And we have with we haven't had the one hiccup on Gooseberry Lane. We have not had any difficulty. Mr. Bertram does not want to hold these, to be responsible for plowing this any longer than he has to be.
The town already plows it too.
That's true, but he has to maintain it.
Yeah,
Who's plowing the road now?
the town.
The town plowing the road, sure. It's still a private way and they still plow it? That's unusual.
That's the standard.
Is it?
It is. That's what they've been doing for most of
Long
them.
time.
They don't do any repairs on it.
Yeah, they do repairs, but they want to keep it open for emergency access.
I'll entertain a motion to release lot 1 on Indian Pipe and 10, 12, and 13 on Nikki's Way.
Second.
Yeah, I'll formally make the motion so the chair doesn't have to.
No, you don't like to make a motion?
John has seconded it. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Do you need a notary? Okay.
Probably you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I brought my husband.
Oh, no.
I just have to go ahead and record this now, right? Or do I bring it to the clerk?
No, you just record,
Okay.
take it to the registry.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm assuming no people are here for the Jericho Park? Okay. No doubt about it. Sure. The Hadley Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, July 18, 2017, beginning at 7:15 p.m. in the Hadley Senior Center Meeting Room. The purpose of the hearing is to review the application of Friends of Zatirica Park for special permits, site plan approval, business use and aquifer, erosion and control to construct a park with up to 1,200 square feet of pavilions at the current Zatirica Field at the corner of Huntington and Breckenridge Roads. The application and plans may be viewed in the town clerk's office during normal business hours, published twice in the Gazette, July 4 and 11.
And I open with a comment. The town clerk sent us an email that said that you had not delivered plans to the town clerk.
We dropped off plans on the 16th.
With the clerk?
I think Mark Donald dropped them off here at one of the planning board.
No, at the town
At the
office.
town
You're
clerk.
supposed to- You were supposed to file a plan with the town clerk.
Okay. I don't know if we did or not.
She says you didn't.
Okay.
So we will see if anybody raises it as an issue.
Okay. I appreciate that. My name's Peter Wells. I'm with the Berkshire Design Group. We've been involved with this project for over a year now. We've been before you previously with various designs, and we've submitted a modification after many different modifications, and I'd like to present that and then go over some of the details and talk a little bit about stormwater management. With me tonight is Mark Donald from my office, who is involved in the stormwater management aspect of the project, and a number of the committee members for Zatirica Park. And we're calling them Zatirica-ites, so it's the nickname. To walk you through the proposed design, it's been scaled down quite a bit from the original design. We have a much smaller parking area off of Huntington, safe access and site distance. Right now you enter at the corner of Huntington and Breckenridge. Somewhat unsafe in terms of site distance. We have a smaller parking area of 16 cars, 2 for people with disabilities, and the overflow parking, which is half of that, we're going to use for a half-court basketball court. It will be striped for half-court basketball, but also will be striped for cars in case there is a larger picnic event or some activity there. Our pathway system begins at the parking area. This is an existing path that meanders through the pine grove that comes up through Breckenridge. This walkway pathway system continues throughout the 6-acre park. It's been flagged with tape. We've met out there some of the committee members have met out there with me to walk it. The Boy Scouts have also walked it, and they're going to help out in terms of doing some of the clearing for that pathway system to occur. But it basically meanders through and then comes out over in this area. As you enter here, we've sprinkled this area with numerous shade trees throughout to provide shade for picnickers and also people exploring the proposed new playground. So a walkway system would meander in, and it's basically a loop system that people can use for exercise. As you enter, we have proposed a concrete pad for a future picnic/shade structure. Something similar to possibly that. We haven't spec'd it out yet, but we are hoping to at least create the pad for that to occur. Picnic tables will be put on underneath it, benches, etc. To the right, we have a small storage area that is also a future phase and proposed to fit into the hillside and look like it does fit into the hillside nicely. As you meander around, there are benches located throughout, picnic tables beneath the proposed shade trees, a playground area which we hope to design with using natural elements, logs, boulders, rope, etc. Not that large in size. Benches located around it. It will be fully accessible for people with disabilities. And it's basically the focal point of the new master plan concept. The area that used to have a amphitheater is this lawn area is still there. The slope itself, as you know, last year we did some clearing and we did remove the tennis courts, we removed the fencing. That was phase one, early action. Phase two has been out to bid and accepted, and that's to provide stability to the soils out there that are exposed, as far as bringing in some topsoil for the tennis courts, grubbing some of the stumps, putting in filter fabric for the hillside and planting it with meadow and wildflower mix. So it will not be used as an amphitheater, but just planted so that the slope will be stabilized and can be used for other activities during winter time. We have shade trees located out front. We've retained the two large maples that are on Huntington. We've also been working with our abutting neighbor, Mr. Dickinson, with regard to adding screening that will be located between his driveway and the playground area. We have 14 evergreen trees that are in sizes from 6 to 7 feet in height that will be hand located with the committee and with Mr. Dickinson once the contractor is signed up, and we'll go out there and actually just stake where they're going to go between some of the existing plant materials out there. That will provide not an immediate screen, but a fairly nice one. This slopes down quite a bit, so those trees are going to go in at 7-foot height and will provide. We have a guardrail that will keep cars, aggressive cars, from entering the site itself. We have a gate that will be located for service vehicles and emergency vehicles. Our stormwater management. I'm going to run through it quickly. Mark is here to answer any detailed questions, but basically we tried to mimic what is existing there now. And what happens there now is water comes down Breckenridge Road. A lot of it enters the site and basically meanders through and ends up in this low, I'll call it a detention basin, but it's not really, because there really never is standing water there. We've been there after some major events. It's wet, but the soils here are very conducive for infiltration. But basically the water comes in here, and then during the larger events, the 100-year, 500, water does meander on overflow providing more infiltration, but exiting the site over here. So that's our existing condition. Water is not treated whatsoever. We're on an aquifer zone here. So our approach to stormwater management was to mimic this, but also to go 2 steps further and treat the water in 2 areas for any total suspended solids or oils that may drain off of both Breckenridge and the parking area. So the way we've done that basically is we have a low area here that we're going to carve out that will have a catch basin structure that will be approximately 9 inches in height above the ground that's there. Water will come in from Breckenridge. Silt will have a chance to meander down to the base, and then water will rise slightly. During larger events, water will flow into the catch basin and on out into an outlet structure here and into the field area. That's one method of treatment. The other for the parking area drains down in this direction. We have a small section of curbing and a stormwater treatment chamber there that will remove total suspended solids and oils over 80% as required. So those 2 elements are additional costs, but needed since we are in a overlay aquifer district. We have a grading plan that we have submitted as part of the packet, and it shows how the area slopes down into the field area that's located here. We have piping coming into it. Fairly simple. It's going to look a little bit different than what's out there now because that whole area here is going to be lowered slightly. We have a contingency for stump removal. We know that's going to be a possible issue because this is an old stump dump for the DPW. So we are planning on hitting some stumps once this is lowered, and we are planning for that.
How much lower will it be?
Excuse me?
How much lower will it be than the existing field?
In some areas, 18 inches. So it's modified quite a bit. We feel comfortable with it. As I mentioned, we have been out to bid for what we're calling phase 2, stabilizing the site, and we hope that will occur shortly, and seeding can occur when the weather gets a little bit more cooler. Mark, I'm not sure if you want to add anything, or any of the committee members. We are here for site plan review and stormwater.
Where's all the water going from that parking lot?
It's going into a catch basin, a stormwater treatment chamber here, and then from there it is piped out into the field area.
There's absolutely no spillover onto the street?
No. There's none.
So none of that water is going to go out the street?
No.
I thought you had some arrows that were showing the overflow headed out towards the street.
I think
The one down below.
Sure.
in an extremely large storm, 100-year storm, this will function better than existing, but in extremely large storms, there will be some overflow from that depressed area going into Stumpy Road, as it does now, but less than what was currently going.
But how much runoff are you going to, sheer runoff are you going to?
I think only add to it, only as you approach a 100-year storm, not in a normal everyday storm.
From a historical standpoint, in terms of stormwater, we haven't looked back that far, but my guess is that early on, at some point, water basically meandered down Breckenridge and Huntington early on, and probably did not come into the park itself. But since this area has been gravel and things have moved around, it's doing it now. So
Well, I think that was the case, they did that because of ice. The water running the ice the road up. I mean, a real hazard over there.
Sure. So we've responded to it with this system.
So you're not gonna create no hazards with ice during the winter?
No.
Yeah.
So the ball, right now, Where your parking lot is basically where the baseball diamond is, in a nutshell.
Baseball diamond used to be there, yeah.
Right in there. And the outfield is basically where you're gonna be putting in the depressed area.
Yes.
Okay.
Where's the toe of the hill in the back?
The Toa Hill runs along the walkway system here.
Way in the back then, it's all
Oh.
flat, or is that the hill?
Way in the back, the toe is right here, and that runs up to an area where we're gonna create an overlook since it's been cleared. And the views from up there, if you haven't been on the park, are quite nice now. You can really see the Summit House and the whole range.
So basically, from the toe to the road, it's all flatland there?
From the
Where's this?
pathway to here, this is where the old tennis court used to be. That's gonna remain flat. Then from here back, it's gonna be similar to what's out there now. A slope, we're gonna level it, not level it, we're gonna create a gentle, more of a average slope from here down by just doing a minor changes of grades within that central section, but it's going to basically look the same as it does now, with the exception of adding wildflower mix and erosion control matting. Curlex blanket, it's a very nice material that is laid over and you hydroseed over it, and it holds the soils in.
Where's the water flow go from the toe? What direction is that?
Right now, it goes from this toe and just sheet flows over. There are there's 2 existing catch basins that will remain on site. Those are infiltration basins. They're not tied to anything. We're not depending on those for our stormwater management. We're picking up water and letting it enter the field area.
What's the time frame for the project?
Phase 2, the stabilization is going to occur within the next 2-3 months. We are going to be going before CPA shortly, and depending on how that goes, we're not sure. Is that a correct answer?
Yes, we're hopeful. That
Oh yeah, we're hopeful,
that it'll
definitely.
be, the CPA will see this in mid-August, and then we're hopeful it'll be on the fall town meeting warrant, so we could begin this work next spring.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
Yeah, are we gonna get any problems with this if, say, a neighbor files an injunction or something on it because they didn't file with the town clerk?
Did the town clerk make anyone aware of it, or was it part of
Make
the
me
next
aware
job?
of it.
Well, you guys,
When?
they were told to do it.
So,
The solar's good.
We have, that's a question we have no idea.
I'm just curious if it was through the department. I don't work there anymore, so I'm curious if it was through the Park and Rec department, and maybe they did file it.
we expect basically the applicant or the applicant's engineer to
Okay.
file. Usually, they're also filing a check, and so it's one-stop shopping. I just don't recall, and we don't keep minutes in that level of detail as to whether we specifically reminded them to do it this time. I can't say whether we did or not, but these are frequent flyers, so I'm sure that they.
The application fee was waived, so we don't know. Anyways,
My question is still, and I don't have an answer.
nobody has an answer, we'll have to wait and see.
Nobody has come to this public hearing to raise it as an issue.
I'm raising it.
Well, but you're not an agreed party.
We'll be filing tomorrow.
Okay. Good.
Not that
Any comments from anybody in the audience on this? Yes, sir.
Jim Dickinson. I guess my only concern is I'm the butter, the one butter to the property. And they're planning on putting trees and stuff along the banking, which eventually I think will help. But at this point, there won't be anything. It's a pretty steep banking. I'm not gonna get much protection. As it was before, I had like 30 feet of trees and brush kind of pretty much garbage stuff in there, but at least it was a barrier, you know, that I wasn't sitting out there like,
Well, has this been cleared out?
it's been halfway cleared out, three-quarters of the way.
Some of the
Still has some
junk
trees
trees
up.
were cleared out, some of the lower brush was cleared out in order to make room for the screening. And yes, it's different looking than it was earlier, and that's why we had proposed.
You're talking, you got the old Logan house, it used to be called, is that correct?
No, I built a new house.
The new house.
Oh, so newer house up closer to it?
Yeah, right here.
Okay.
I'm right up against it, I look right down onto the field.
Then you're quite a bit higher, right?
Yeah, I'm quite a bit higher, which means if they put something like maybe 4 or 5 foot shrubs along there, that would even block the view. Trees down on the slope aren't gonna do much of anything for me at this point. And
That's why
down the road it will, you know, I mean, 5, 10 years down the road it will.
Where's your boundary line? Right down,
My boundary line is just off my driveway, right at the top of the hill.
so if they put a screening on the side of your driveway, would that block it?
Yeah, that would help a lot. I don't know exactly what they can use there.
So let 'em do that.
I'm not
That's
sure.
why we offered to meet with Mr. Dickinson out there, and we'll walk it and where he wants it.
Would that satisfy you?
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm
You're
concerned
talking
about.
an arborvitae type shrub?
What's that?
An arborvitae type shrub, some kind of an evergreen?
Yeah, I would think some kind of an evergreen that would go year round, because they plan on, you know, sliding and stuff down there like they always do in the winter.
Yeah, if they, what they talked about, putting those under those other trees, they won't survive underneath those other trees. Is
No,
there any?
this is up on the hill.
I know, but is there any other trees up on the hill on that?
At this point, there's still some stuff they left behind that hasn't been taken down yet, but it's not, you know, there's a couple of maples there that are pretty decent, but most of it's junk.
So if they put something like a 6-foot arborvitae shield there,
Yeah,
that
something
would
like
satisfy
that
you?
would probably be good.
So do that.
I'm not sure if that's necessarily be that, but something up there.
Well, I think you need screening there.
Yeah, of some sort, yeah. But I don't want something that goes gigantically tall either, you know.
Well, you could always cut them down.
So are we talking about
Trim them
planting
at the base.
something on your land?
Right.
No, I still think it'll be on
No.
their land.
Okay,
No, it'll be on the park plan.
okay.
And his property line is right on the park plan,
The driveway's right on the park line,
just about, it's
3
close.
feet
Yeah, it's
from
right
it.
next to it, close to it.
It's 3 feet from it.
so that's perfect for a shelter.
So we'll work with him on that.
Any other concerns you have?
No, everything looks good at this point.
That would just be a condition of approval, right?
Yeah.
Which would be?
Condition of approval. In other
Oh, I
words, we will not withhold approval.
I see.
We will approve, and you and this gentleman, this committee and this gentleman must come to an agreement on basic type and size, and if you don't, you come back to us and then we try to compromise.
No.
But most of the time, it sounds like you're gonna have, you know, you're willing, he's willing, it shouldn't be a big deal.
It's in the plan.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, I think we're pretty much set for this.
Okay, let's tweak this a little bit. So what was the site plan approval, was there anything else?
Site plan, business use and aquifer, and erosion and control.
Probably not, it's really not business use, is it?
Well, I wasn't sure, that's why I put it in there, that way if we decide it's not appropriate, we don't have to do anything about it, but if I didn't put it in there, we'll find out it is.
Is there any set
It's
hours
not
for
zone
the park?
business either.
Yeah.
It's
But it
determined
is
by
a
the
municipal
commission.
use.
What is it?
There hasn't been a determined time for the park up to now, but
Well, I
that
hope
is.
it's not around the clock.
No, no. I would say that it would follow every other one. When I was working for Park and Rec, I had already decided that there would be a sign that said dusk.
I
Are
certainly,
there any
to
lights
dusk.
involved in this? Outside?
No.
No outside lighting?
No.
I certainly like to see what the hours are gonna be posted there.
A lot of parks do that till dusk.
She says thus.
A lot of
It
parks
does.
have the sign. I did some research while I was working at Park and Rec, and a lot of the signs say until dusk. you know, and we have cooperation from our fire and police department to help us with that as well, but I'm sure that the commission will continue thinking that until dusk would be the appropriate time.
Should we put that in our?
Sure, absolutely.
So, so I'm gonna suggest that the business use in the aquifer doesn't apply, because this is not a business, it's a town, it's a municipal use. Okay, so,
It's actually, in the use code, it is a municipal use, and it does, that's why it requires the special permit.
but it doesn't require the business use of the aquifer.
No, it was, we're talking what permits I advertised versus what permits are actually needed for us to vote on. I put business use in aquifer only because I wasn't sure. And if we decided it was and I didn't post it, we gotta repost the whole hearing again. If we don't need it, it's gone. We don't need it.
Okay.
That's all. So since we're determining it is municipal use, then it's not a business use. So satisfies general purposes, not detrimental to the established character of the neighborhood, not prohibited by the bylaw. So are those the revised plans? Do we have those, or is that more recently? Okay, what's the revision date on?
June 16th.
June 6th.
June 6th.
June 6th on that.
June 6th, excuse me.
June 6th.
Yep.
Okay. So special conditions, screening plantings along a butter's driveway, and hours open till dusk. Copies of the plan have been distributed.
Under hours, daylight hours, as opposed to open, because that way it can just be planned from the whole.
Also on that screening, that would be acceptable to the abutter. Not they just throw out for the guy and this is what you get. It's gonna be acceptable by the
Thank you.
Okay, it's in. Design features are an integral part. I'm going to edit some of this down because there are no roof lines, doors.
Will the pavilion be a year-round pavilion or just in the summer?
Probably just summer. We're not sure if we can afford a structure that has a shingle roof. It might just be a canvas structure, but we're not sure yet. I don't see using it in the winter.
I can't imagine we're gonna put a structure, I mean,
We're not gonna
using it in
plow.
the winter anyways, yeah.
Plow the parking
We'll
lot
put no
anyway.
teepees up there because the Indians will call for a burial ground or something, you won't do nothing.
So there'll be no signage other, will there be any kind of signage?
There'll be a sign at the entryway.
Identification sign, yeah.
Okay. We'll just put to return with sign detail. Landscaping installed as shown. No outdoor lighting fixtures. Storage, performance, security. Approval is subject to approval of other boards if and as required. And we'll just ask, well, this gets into the same issue we voted on for the senior center and the North Hadley Fire Substation. Do we want to have independent consultant review it, or will we accept their certification?
I think we'll accept their certification.
So certified
It depends,
compliance.
are you acceptable?
Yeah.
If you can't file it, no.
Okay, so it's a little disjointed, but basically the motion is to approve it with the two conditions and subject to approval of other boards if and as required.
But who's gonna check, he's gonna check his own work?
Yes.
Yes, we're going to agree that, that they will certify compliance.
Just like we did with the other health facilities. The fire station and the senior center, we agreed they would approve.
Well, that was because I thought that town DPW director was a civil engineer, but he isn't. He had no engineering background, so.
I'll second the motion.
Isn't he in conflict checking his own work?
No,
Of
it's,
course not.
in this case, you know, basically, he's, they're licensed engineers in Massachusetts. If they're gonna sign off that they did something that they didn't do, you know, there's no percentage in that.
What about erosion control?
I will get to that.
Okay. So we are,
Okay.
okay, so we have a motion and a second on the site plan approval. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously on site plan approval.
And then the motion for erosion and sediment control, provisions are applicable, project is not exempt, site work is consistent with the bylaw, proposed site work satisfies the performance standards, so that's my motions.
Second.
And a second on erosion control. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay,
Thank you.
you're all set?
Thank you.
Good luck, thank you.
You guys are gonna file tomorrow with the town clerk?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Check it, you guys.
Okay, then we also have
Hey,
Hadley Village Barn. What most everybody else is here for. Hadley Village Barn,
Oh,
Yes, that's me, I'm sorry.
but we also have,
Colony Estates,
and the
Amherst Apartments.
Amherst Apartments.
Do the Amherst Apartments first, that's easy.
If it's as easy as I've been told it is,
Yes.
let's do Amherst Apartments.
Okay.
This is Mark Arnold, Berkshire Design. We filed the application with the planning board for site plan approval for the parking lot associated with the Amherst Hotel. During the process, we have also filed with the Amherst and Hadley Conservation Commission. As part of the review, they want to review the wetland delineation, and that's undergoing. And if they modify that line, we're going to have to modify the parking lot slightly. Rather than have you approve the plan as we have it, which we're comfortable with, and then they modify it, we have to modify the parking lot. We prefer not to come back to you for that. We prefer to come to you with a clean final plan, and as such, we're going to request an extension, a
Okay.
continuation, I should say.
Until when?
I'm hoping 2 weeks, but we still haven't got the review back regarding the delineation.
We'll put you on for, the third Tuesday of October, which would be, the 15th.
August, not October.
Yeah, obviously, August 15th, yes.
Okay.
So give us, or email us, or give us a call if you want to
Something.
be on there,
All right.
okay?
Very good.
Simple,
Great.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay? That's an easy one. So now we have the Hadley Village building continuation, and a big comment there was the cupola.
Cupola. Yeah, just real quickly going over the project, refresh your memory. Existing site, we're proposing to the Bay Road, Route 9. This is where the new conference center is. The buildings we're here are torn down right at this corner, proposing to put in a retail store. Going over very quickly, some of the aspects of that. The building's going in, revising the parking slot ever so slightly. We meet all the setback requirements, we meet all the open space requirements, we meet all the parking regulation requirements. As far as drainage, we are slightly decreasing the amount of impervious area, so therefore we're slightly improving the runoff characteristics of the site. As far as the impervious area, even though we're decreasing the overall impervious area, part of the parking is being replaced with roof. The roof is cleaner than pavement, so we're improving the water quality as well. We did, last time we spoke, you said you did want a peer review regarding the drainage for just the drainage aspect of it. We did get a peer review letter from Doucette Associates, and basically they said everything was all right. There were a couple of minor comments. One of their comments was they requested some additional spot grades, primarily around these islands. The design was fine. They just asked for a few more spot grades to ensure there was no ponding occurring. Revised plans we have here essentially have 5 or 6 more spot grades on them. They also had a question regarding the green space behind the building as it affects the neighbors. We're essentially decreasing the amount of green space behind the building and replacing it with roof, which is drained towards this way. So we are actually decreasing the amount of water that's going to the neighbors to the west. Those are essentially the 2 basic comments that we had. Last time we were here also, we had not been before the Historical Commission. And since that time, we have been before the Historical Commission, and they have provided a letter to the Planning Board which said the project is acceptable. And at that point, I know the Planning Board had some questions regarding the architecture of the building. This is a new architecture of the building, and I'm going to turn that aspect of the presentation over to the architect. Unless you have some more questions of me.
The only thing I got is the drainage off the roof, you said. It's not gonna go, well, the roof is pitched towards the property line, ain't it?
No, we have gutters on the entire roof, so the water will not drip off. It'll be collected in downspouts and piped to the closed drainage system.
So per our previous visit before you, thank you for seeing us again. We went to the Historical Commission and presented them with the same design that we showed you, with the modification of the cupola. Instead of the long skinny cupola we had previously, we now have 3 smaller cupolas that we think are a bit more fitting for the overall structure. Other than that, nothing has changed. We have siding color, base color, main trim color, base color, siding color, and window color are here. And this is the material, it's a hardy panel shiplap.
Could you bring that drawing closer to us? So
Sure.
What size is that cupola?
They're about 3 feet tall, 3'6", about 3'9" actually, from the ridge to the peak.
And square?
Yep.
What?
28 inches?
28 inches.
Just out of curiosity, why so small and why 3?
Well, there's a number of different options. You can go, obviously, for a large one. You can go for some smaller ones. We felt since this building wasn't necessarily a formal building typology, like a meeting house or a church or something like that, that would be more fitted by a series of small cupolas.
I wanted to see 2 in the larger.
It kind of look like 3 chimneys.
Got the cut sheet in the...
It kind of look like 3 chimneys as opposed to a cupola, to be honest with you. But that's what you want, that's the image you're trying to project?
No, I think that's interesting. That you would see
I mean,
that.
a chimney's not look bigger than 28 inches. That's 28 inches square, right?
Yeah.
So
It's about like that like the cardboard.
Yeah.
24 inches.
3 feet high.
Or 24 inches square.
44 inches, so that would be...
That's tiny.
So it'd be pretty much like that, 3 feet high, and that's the
Yeah.
tall. They're too small.
They look like vents on, they look like vents on the back of our...
Exactly what I was thinking, Jim.
I don't like them. I'll be honest with you. I'd rather see two larger cupolas that look like a cupola as opposed to something that looks like at the back of vent on a barn. That's my opinion. I know the historical commission approved it, but we can certainly do better.
Are there any standard architectural measurements proportionally what cupola height should be for the building height?
A single cupola would be pretty.
I agree, but I just asked the question. Probably not, huh?
As far as I know, there are none. There also are no guidelines, which we would have been happy to follow.
Yeah, I would think something, I'm looking like maybe, I mean, if you have, well, I don't want to design it for you. But something like two larger cupolas that would look like a cupola.
Yeah, I'd like to see something like at least 4 feet high and maybe 3 foot square.
Yeah, something more, not massive, but something that stands out more as a cupola. I mean, I'm not talking a cupola that's like some of the buildings that I know have, 8 and 10 foot wide.
No.
That's a little bit ridiculous.
For a building of this scale.
A building of this scale. But something like two that are, maybe John's, something maybe twice, two cupolas that are about twice as big as those. So not 6 foot, that's 6 foot.
So if you went 3 foot square, 4 foot high.
Yeah, 3 by 4.
So do we want to give provisional approval, Jim, and have them come back with a couple of designs just sketched out?
How hard are they to get moving on this?
They want to pull a building permit as soon as they have approval.
We can give a conditional approval except for the cupolas, I would think, because everything else we've approved, right?
Yes.
So rather than fight over the cupola and hold up the whole approval process, we will hold up the approval process of the roof pending the cupola.
So that's just awkward. I would, well, first of all, I'm behind on all my filings anyway. So
Okay.
if this got delayed 2 weeks, it really wouldn't delay you any because I'm probably a month to 6 weeks out on filing decisions at this point. So I would rather we just have, you've thrown out some numbers, sort of one of those, be careful what you wish for, because we don't know what it would look scaled on this.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I have a little bit of a concern here because we came with there are no official guidelines per se. We came here a month ago and met with the gentleman and we had some concerns and.
Well, there are design guidelines for the Village Center Overlay District, although I don't know as they go into that.
Well,
They don't
not
go
for
into detail.
cupola.
Not for cupola, no.
And I actually spoke with the Historic Commission specifically about design guidelines for the buildings, and they said it's up to the architect. So I'm just surprised now that here we are having this talk about cupolas again.
No, don't be surprised. We talked about it last time. It's not off the table.
You said you want a cupola, not several. Not just
Yeah,
one
but if
number.
you put one, you make it bigger. You put two, you make them smaller.
One would be on, one cupola, we talked about a cupola and one, or whatever would be something, we left it very wide open. And one cupola on a building of that would be, to make it look scaled, would be ugly, to be honest with you. And, I mean, if those cupolas there were the three of them were, they just look so small, that's my impression. 28-inch cupola on a building that's
24 inch.
20, okay, 2 foot cupola, that's on a building 100 feet long. 104 feet.
Oh, right, 70 in the other direction.
Okay.
But, to remind you of the vents on tobacco shed, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well,
That's what they were for, right?
Yeah.
To vent the roofs,
Exactly.
and so
No, it's
if you have a length of your long
what does the other board members feel?
I guess the concern is it is one of the approaches to town, so we do like to give it a little more thought. I don't want to just send you off and say, come back with a 3-foot square. I think it might be helpful, and I don't want to spend the client's money wildly, but it might be helpful to try a couple of different.
You could put some
You know,
stick-ons.
Come in with a few variations, so we don't get into a volleying this back and forth.
Yeah. The entry to town is the old Getty station. See if you guys can come to something for that.
If only they owned it, we could. But I don't think you need to go into the same level of detail with every variant, but if you could just project on, print on, whatever, I assume this is all computerized.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we could do 100 options there, but
We don't want that many.
You don't need a hundred, but I think it might be very helpful and more likely to get this resolved at one last gasp. If you, and I think we can fit them in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
If you come back with a couple of variations that work for the owner and for the tenant and are proportionate, I think we can probably resolve it on the spot at that point.
Is the main issue just the size, or even the design you don't like?
Well, the design is fine.
Okay.
It's just the size.
Well, except to the extent that the size is part of the design. It's a, chicken and egg problem.
The picture you show here, that seems to be some kind of a standard you can buy out of some catalog, looks fine. Okay, so the appearance of the cupola is fine. We're not designing just the dimensions of what we're looking at.
What's the picture of the roof, 6'12"?
revisit.
Okay.
So in order to see you in 2 weeks,
Yes.
what will be there on the schedule?
You're on.
We're already on it.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
So that's the 15th, is that right?
No, that's the first.
The first one.
We have, what departments, Harvey Village Barn, Colony Estates, preliminary subdivision.
Thank you very much.
For the record, John Goddard from R. Levesque Associates, here tonight on behalf of Mr. Peter Salinas for a proposed 8-lot subdivision off of Shattuck Road. This is on the west side of Shattuck Road, just north of Bayberry Lane. And before I get into too much detail, I do have some plans reflecting some modest text revisions. Happy to lay them out if anybody wants a larger copy in front of them.
Yeah. I like that.
By all means.
Any idea how many people are capable of living off of Shattuck Road right now? Is it 500? 1,000?
What?
How many houses have been built in Aragon? How many people can live off of Shattuck Road with all the developments that have been put up there? Fully developed? Yeah. Well, including this.
There are still a fair amount of undeveloped.
Yeah, how many houses?
There's a lot of undeveloped land off Shattuck, a huge amount. Probably has in the 50s, I doubt it's 30% developed.
The showers, is that in the APR or not?
No, not yet.
Just a few brief facts about the site. The proposed street length is about 840 feet. Looking to be serviced by public water and private septic systems. We did have the opportunity to get some peer review comments back from Mr. Thomas Hogan over at Doucette Associates. In the interest of brevity and expediency, I'm happy to paraphrase and go through each comment as it relates to the proposed plan. First comment was, we're going to go to the procedural aspects. There was a note about the scale of the plan. This is a 50 scale plan, and as submitted originally with the application, there was a waiver request from that, of course, at the discretion of the board. Next two comments had to do with legend and plan content. I think we all can appreciate that this is, we'll call it essentially an excerpt, a picture of what's going to be a complete plan set, which includes all of those details as would be appropriate for a definitive subdivision application. The amended plan before you this evening does have the address and the owner record on there, as well as under design standards. We had requested a waiver with regard to the minimum distance to a horizontal curve under section 5.1.1.7. It's related to, if you will, the design standard tables that Mr. Hogan picked up on under item 5.1.2. So the correspondence distributed for this evening does include both of those sections to be requested as waivers. His last note under design standard has to do with tree lines. This site was recently logged. We're thinking it's been maybe 3 or 4 years back, and the aerial plan that Mr. Hogan was looking at has likely been it's out of date. So nonetheless, we are happy to show a schematic tree line as would be appropriate. Having said that much, beyond what remains as open space and the individual lots, of course, that's subject to development considerations of each individual landowner. I'm going to flip back for just a moment to, he had a comment about the horizontal curve and site distances associated with it. Mr. Hogan was concerned that waiver we asked for essentially was to allow this little bend to come into the subdivision and allow for a 90-degree angle to Shattuck Road. I think what we're looking at is two modestly different schools of thought. One would be to come in at an oblique angle and make sure you maintain that straight approach. Mr. Hogan's comment was that it would be appropriate to look at site distances both horizontally and vertically for the approach to make sure that there wasn't any obstruction to, if you will, a stop vehicle and anybody approaching, exiting the subdivision. The way we show it would be the preferred manner. Having said that much, at the definitive level, we can always adjust, similar to Bayberry Lane, to an oblique intersection to maintain, if you will, that site distance to the end and still have our required radii for the proposed right-of-way. So having said that much, I think it's an either-or for the preliminary subdivision. Mr. Hogan's comment with regards to stormwater management reflects the diagrammatic nature of this preliminary plan. His mention had to do with stormwater test pits and outfalls from the two proposed locations that we're showing here. We do show a detention basin or subsurface or subsurface basin up towards the frontage on Shattuck Road, then a subsurface basin further in the site. Obviously, this is schematic. We have not performed those test pits at this time, but certainly would be doing so as part of the definitive design process. And outfalls, of course, will be designed at that time. Last two comments are just making sure that there's I shouldn't say adequate, I should say the necessary coordination with the fire department so that they have the opportunity to comment on the proposed design. We would expect that hydrants would be located at the standard 300 to 500 foot range as would be appropriate and as is under their review for the subdivision regulations. And the last one had to do with just clarifying that it's municipal water and private septic systems. So there's a subsequent permitting activity for, of course, each lot that would be appropriate.
So all the perks have been done, perk tests?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if it has been at this preliminary level.
Peter's not on his head.
Thank you, I appreciate
So all
that.
lots passed?
What's with the property beyond the road? That's just gonna remain as,
That would be open space. This was reviewed by the Endangered Species Program. So, oh, I'm
That's my
sorry.
next question.
Okay, great. So,
Because in that area, the spade-toed frog has been
Rumored. It was the wood turtle.
It's a rumored.
The turtle.
Now it's the spotted turtle.
having said that much, the layout you see here is based almost entirely upon the outcome of their review process. So that does end up being for protected open space.
Does the Mill River flow back there at all?
Russell Brook.
That's Russell Brook.
Oh, that is Russell Brook there?
Yes, Russellville Brook.
Okay.
And the topography from the end of the cul-de-sac down to Russell Brook, what's the drop?
There's a little bit of a rise within this area, as you can see by those two peaks right there. But we're dropping from roughly the 100, if you will, assumed datum range, down to, at the brook, we're in the low 80s. So about 20 feet or so.
Yeah, because that was a concern. Some of the drainage is going to go west, and obviously you're going to design it, so
Thank you.
that comes in the definitive plan.
Yes, sir.
So generally, are we looking for a perk test indicator on the lots as we, it's been a long time since we.
For the definitive, we will be, yes.
Yes, so
Yeah.
they'll be so located.
They'll show the location where they were done.
And so the only waiver of any critical importance is the entrance to Shattuck Road, and this looks fine. It seems like a 90-degree, and it's not getting heartburn over that.
Yeah.
It's not like it's Route 47.
True.
Well, Stratton sees a fair amount of traffic now with Sunderland and Hadley both developing off of it going both ways. I mean, it's still, it has been, is it finally paved all the way through?
Yes.
It is?
The town was very magnanimous in paving. You could have required Mr. Jelinas to pave it.
They used Chapter 90 money to pave it after Mr. Berhume laid water mains in it.
That's right.
Yes.
So I'm not participating in this one.
Okay.
So anything that we should question regarding a preliminary plan? No reason to reject it because the lots are the required size. The layout is as directed.
When would you anticipate coming back with the definitive, Peter?
As soon as we can lay ink to paper.
Oh, really?
I imagine it's going to be at least a number of weeks.
So sometime this fall, probably.
I would expect that would be the best opportunity for us.
Now, you realize with 8 lots, one of those is gonna have to be affordable.
Or put in a housing stock.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Which I think,
No,
We need clarity. on
not necessarily.
not the housing stock, the lot.
No, a lot.
Well, that's what we were just talking
Right.
about on the inclusionary zoning.
This is directly under the inclusionary zoning section of the bylaw.
But as with the problem Barry Roberts faced, we may need to, we're gonna face the same problem
Under both of those.
under both of them. With this project, how is the affordability component going to be monitored?
Right.
So it may make sense to,
Well, the original inclusionary fund was put in under the inclusionary bylaw. We didn't put it under the senior for the fund because we had already taken it out with the inclusionary, but now you heard me talk about Barry, so I don't need to repeat myself, but what we don't want to do is have a developer spend that amount of money on doing this only to have to do it. Like, well, okay, he sells it. The new person owns it. Now, how do they put it into the fund? How do they, it gets to be an absolute, it could be a bit difficult, leave it at that.
It's complex, for sure.
So if we can put the fund in, then he puts money into the fund, he doesn't worry about it, the town has the fund to institute, or not institute, to distribute as appropriate, and we still meet our requirements.
So what got cut out of the inclusionary zoning at the time was we set up inclusionary zoning, we set up a fund, but we did not set up a committee to distribute the fund.
No, I'm not following the fund. If all of a sudden Mr. Joannis throws money into the fund and Barry Roberts throws money into the fund, we have this fund of money that's going to be spent on affordable housing. Who is...
Well, that's the thing, that on town meeting, when the finance committee said, oh, the affordable housing committee could pledge the credit of the town without town meeting approval. We don't know where that came from, but we amended it on the floor to take the committee out. So we have a requirement, we have a fund, but we don't have anyone to run the fund.
But no, I'm worried about, I'm not worried, but I want kind of some clearance on who is in charge of the fund and where they're going to put these affordable units.
That's what we asked.
Whereas in this situation, this is what we voted on, that it should go within the development.
That's right, but I'll just use Barry's numbers. He's gonna put $65,000 into the fund, and he's gonna put $70,000 into the fund, just using Barry's numbers.
Yeah.
Okay? And he's gonna spend roughly $65,000 for that one building lot to institute and to follow up on that fund, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're trying, that's what we asked Larry to do. What are other towns doing? Like some towns, their housing authorities have accepted that responsibility. But the vast majority of them, it sounds like, do not want, and the state has told them not to accept it. So we're trying to find out, with Larry's input, what can be done and how do we do this? So that we get what we designed this to do without extreme heartbreak to anybody.
So the inclusionary zoning bylaw explicitly includes fees in lieu of affordable housing provision. So it's just like transfer development rights, where we set up two paths in transfer development rights. The mall owner could go out and find you and buy your development rights, or they could toss the money into the pot.
But that's not quite the same, because we have in the APR land that's always being put in, that's where the town share goes.
Yeah, but no developer has ever made a private contract.
So the way I would look at it, all of a sudden if this fund builds up, then some developer's going to say, I want to plop some 40B housing all in one area.
Apples and oranges. But it's in the bylaw right now as an alternative to the requiring an inclusionary unit. An applicant may contribute to an established local housing trust fund to be used for the development of affordable housing elsewhere.
That's to be discussed later. Okay.
Yeah, so that's something. That's what Barry is asking for.
And that's what we're gonna, you're right, we'll have to discuss it with Larry. You're right, Jim. We're not gonna reinvent the wheel.
That's the devil in the detail. You're absolutely right. And the last thing we want to do is make up something. We want to try to find out what's being done elsewhere, be it Massachusetts or other states, and somehow model ours after that, so we're following a proven formula.
Because we could get an apartment complex with the funding here that would be 40B housing, which we're almost trying to avoid because we have our share of it.
That's right, and all we want to do is maintain the status quo.
Exactly correct.
We're not trying to I can't
You
imagine
hear our
we're gonna get so
reasoning
much
here.
money in there that
Yes,
anybody could afford to come.
That's
We're
what you
looking to
heard
put
part of
in
the discussion.
a couple of, I don't know exactly what it'll look like. That's
Well,
right.
I mean, there's certainly some noble gestures here in that if there's a rundown house, then we could use that fund for rehabbing a house. There's a lot of options.
That's an idea, that's exactly correct, and a housing authority now owns that unit. Or do they extend it somehow, is there a demand for it? We don't know.
We, basically, we need a department to administer the thing, right?
Yes.
Well, that's what you'd have to create, a whole department and
Or-
a secretary.
No, it could be the Board of Selectmen, it could be Conservation.
Could be the housing authority, we gotta find out who's appropriate and just follow that path without burdening them.
Not the planning board.
So, okay, so what you're looking for is preliminary approval, approval for the preliminary plan.
Correct. Basic layout, sizes, stuff like that. The normal. Okay, any other?
Yeah. Are you current with your real estate tax?
I believe so, I'm not certain. I'm not certain on the status of. Okay, so I'm not participating, but I will tell you, he does not own this property.
Who's the developer?
Here's all the people that are in arrears.
Is he under?
Yes.
There's
Not as Peter Delinas.
another party, I can get the name of the current owner.
Who is Valley Building?
Valley Building is one of our companies.
They are in arrears to the tune of $500. Valley Building owns unpaid real estate balance as of 7/18/2017. They owe 128, 155, 145, and 55.
Well, that's not a problem with me.
I was gonna say, it's not, so we're not talking big bucks here. That's Peter Delinas, he's not on here. You're looking for your name?
Everybody start with Eileen.
Don't you worry about that, mister.
The property owner is not on here.
Okay.
Not me.
Thank you.
Why should they, why should they have the interest? They pass it way faster than they get it.
It's the apartments, 40B apartments, we do it.
Okay.
Okay. Will you clean those up?
I don't see my name on there either. That's good.
What about Joe Sperling?
Wow!
Look at him. No, he's getting older. He may
I
forget.
paid in advance, that's right.
All right. Anything else? If not, okay. A motion to approve your preliminary subdivision plan based upon the following findings. They are compliant with Hadley subdivision regulations and being in the best interest of the town to provide the master new law, chapter 41, section 81M. The board specifically finds adequate access to all lots will be safe and convenient, adequate provision for lessening congestion, provision for reducing danger to life and limb, adequate provision for safety in case of fire, flood, panic, etc., adequate provision for ensuring sanitary conditions, compliant with Hadley zoning bylaws. The one waiver is at the intersection with Shattuck Road, which put in a 90-degree angled versus the 90-degree. Which one do we want to go with? The one that's shown?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, Android.
Which one are you calling that?
What's the date of that plan?
How about a perpendicular?
Perpendicular to Shattuck Road.
Is there a date on that plan?
This is revised today, July 18th.
Revised plan for the.
Just curious, what are the couple of lines here? In other words, these are the darker lines are the lot demarcations. What's this one?
I believe that's the required square, so that the required zoning, frontage under zoning.
It's a 150, so that's
Yes.
that threw me off. So this is
versus, of
There's
course, the
more than
dash
one.
setback line.
Yeah.
Okay, perpendicular access that, planning board prefers a perpendicular entrance to Shattuck Road dated 7/18/17, and that's it. Pretty basic. That's the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? And Mr. Dwyer abstains, so.
Thank you all for your time this evening.
Well, we didn't file the preliminary plan, we did the preliminary forms and everything with the town clerk, right?
That would be my understanding. I did not personally
Because I didn't get at least I didn't find generally she makes the photocopy that you filed everything with her. So, could you just please check if you have a photocopy?
Be happy to do so. I'll leave these revised drawings with you.
very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. We have some bills to pay. You have it?
Yeah, here's, I'll just,
Okay, first one. Invoice Daily Hampshire Gazette for advertising, 20972.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. A motion to pay PVPC for the last quarter of, or last invoice for the fiscal year of 3549.28.
So moved.
Motion. Second?
second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And today we had our scanner delivered. It is set up in the planning board office, and it works. It's gonna run through its unlimited, extremely large options so they know how to use it efficiently, but it works. I scanned a few drawings in, and that worked fine, so this is the motion to pay that of $75.95. We were allotted $7,600, so we came in $5 under budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion approved, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. And you have something else, Bill?
Suppose could do the master plan update. It doesn't have to be done, it doesn't have to be done tonight because it was off of a article and not our budget, but
Motion to pay $22,985.43 for the master plan update.
So moved.
Second.
how much is that?
$2985.45. Oh, this is the selectmen pay this one.
Well,
We've been signing that.
we've been signing them. In fact, the other one got selectmen on it too, so,
Let's start off planning board, the planning board here.
yes. I guess technically it is under the select board budget, but they've delegated to us.
They do this when it comes to the warrant anyways. A motion, yeah, we have motion to second to pay the money. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Let's see, CPA one we can't do anything about, and they did mention that they had a outstanding invoice from early in the fiscal year, which I wasn't able to find anything on a quick scan. And I forwarded the CPA bill to David Nixon.
Okay.
I did get an, do you have the Amherst Hotel file on?
Yes.
I did get an email, which I had sent around to you a little while ago. But she's very interested in talking with us. This is from Melissa Downs, and there is a program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy to help communities improve zoning surrounding solar generation. And she, I don't know where, she said she read an article about Eversource's plan to use farmland for solar generation. And other communities are also trying to balance solar arrays with open space wishes. So she is basically offering to hook us up with some federal funding, free consulting service to help communities improve zoning surrounding solar generations. Does that sound something everyone's interested in?
This is to promote solar?
Not necessarily. Balance solar arrays with open space wishes.
I learned at one of these sessions that Johnny and I went to in Worcester that if you accept federal largesse, then you are automatically subject to every federal law in the books.
Well, I think it won't hurt to have the person come in and talk to us and find out what they offer.
This is a cleverly cloaked letter. You can't quite figure out what.
It's very difficult to read, I agree. Because in the top paragraph, it sounds like the person is talking about promoting farmland versus solar. And then further down the letter, it sounds like they're talking about promoting solar.
You'll note that the first paragraph is inserted into a form.
Oh, you're right, the way it was spaced out, but good point.
I think that's all this is, a promotion for solar.
Well, you'll see that she is not a government employee. She is an employee of a consulting group.
A solar smart thing.
Solar smart, yeah. That's like smart growth.
I want to be a solar.
Meister Consultants Group.
We should assign Mike to do some research.
So, invite her to come out, see how.
Mike, if she could make it here the same meeting that Larry's here, I think that might be a good thing.
I think it'd be good, it's a good idea. I'm not that close-minded, although I'm close.
Well, no,
But clearly this program was set up under a different administration. And I wonder if Rick Perry's energy department is still responsible for this, okay?
person talks to us, we can find out what they're doing. And if it's promoting solar, we're not interested in promoting solar, we're interested in preserving certain aspects of our town because of solar. So,
would it be okay to say we wish to mitigate the problems solar is causing for our town?
You know, on the basis of the level of detail in the letter from her, would not plan to respond with much detail either.
Yeah, just invite her to a meeting and see if you can make the meeting, like any meeting in the first of the month. The first meeting of the month when Larry's typically here, and that way we can
You might mention to her that we didn't have any problem at all with Eversource's challenge. No,
Don't ad-lib, just invite it to speak, the first meeting of the month, first Tuesday of the month, and go from there. You want to talk to him, we talk to him.
I'll just reply to the email.
Okay. What else have we got?
That's all I have.
Okay, a couple pieces of general information that were in our mailbox. The Hadley Finance Committee is holding a meeting on July 20th at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall to discuss articles for the special August town meeting, finance priorities for the public safety, IT, form of government, human resources, and et cetera, and revenue enhancing strategies, and some other items for the fiscal 2017 line transfers in the budget. If interested, let's see, the Capital Planning Committee will be holding a meeting on July 24th at 5:30 in the Town Hall to review the August special town meeting. The Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has given us our annual assessment for per capita for the town of Hadley to belong to the PVPC, and our assessment for next fiscal year 18 is $826.56. I doubt that's changed much over the 3 years. And the letters from Eversource withdrawing the plan. We did get a letter from the town clerk indicating that the Attorney General has approved our special zoning, our zoning articles at the annual town meeting. And that is all I have. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I got a letter left out to the Board of Selectmen. The planning board is requesting information about the space we use at the current senior center that is scheduled for demolition for the construction of a new library. At current, we use the meeting room and our plan room. We don't need to wait until the last minute. There is a great deal of plans and records that are required from time to time during our regular meetings. Please advise so as we can take the appropriate steps. Thank you, James Maximowski, Planning Board Chief.
Good letter. Make a motion that this letter be sent to the select board.
From the chairman.
From the chairman.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Change over.
Oh, she's not gonna make me type it too, huh?
Well, gee, I'm not gonna type it out. I don't have a typewriter. And I don't even have a computer now. They went to crap and it got shipped away.
Uh-huh.
Just to rehab it.
That's all I have.
Will we adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meetings history, thank you, and thank you, John.
You're welcome.
How that